with him a few weeks ago in Bogota at DevCon, and now here in Switzerland. And he's a crypto researcher, and as well he's a crypto investor. So great to have you here, Eric.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
And can you tell us about your background, and when did you discover crypto first, and why did you decide to get involved?
Sure. So I discovered Bitcoin back in 2011, actually, and then
It's very early.
Yeah, and the way that I found out about it was I had a friend that sent me a link to the Silk Road. So it was through the Darknet, where people were buying illicit goods on the Darknet, and so I made my first Bitcoin purchase almost exactly 10 years ago on the Mt. Gox exchange that later went. I lost all my Bitcoin on Mt. Gox in 2014. Actually, that event was actually the event that triggered me to go almost full time with my interest, because after having lost that amount of money on Mt. Gox, I made it like a person. It became personal to me, and I wanted to not just accept this defeat and then go on with my life. I wanted to learn everything about Bitcoin, because I felt very stupid having lost this amount of money on a centralized exchange.
Was it a big sum at the time when you lost it?
Well, to me it was a big sum then. Now it's it's 10 years ago, and I had my student, I was a student, so I had some student money there. But so I wanted to learn everything there was to know about Bitcoin, and I got very into the whole not your keys, not your coins type of narrative. And so I was studying computer science at the Lund University at the time, so I had the ability to study about all the different cryptographic primitives that underpin blockchain technology, and I was able to turn myself into some type of blockchain specialist with my academic degree. So in 2016, then I started to work in the financial services industry. So I built, so Bitstamp, for example, they run on a matching engine that was built by the company that I used to work for. So I sold them a matching engine. And after that, NASDAQ acquired the company that I was working for then, which was called Cinnober. And then I started to manage a crypto fund that was called Arcane Assets. And I did that until about March this year.
So do you still code or working on any projects?
The only time that I code these days is when I have a math problem that I cannot solve arithmetically. I cannot, if it's too difficult to solve, sometimes you can just code what you want to happen to your different variables, and then you can run a bunch of simulations, and then usually, sometimes when the math gets too complex, running simulations is an easier way to do math. But so I don't, I'm not building any specific tool or any specific project, but I do use it sometimes in my personal life.
And I read as well that you used to be advisor to Human Rights Foundation. Can you tell more about this?
Yeah, so in 2017, I had previously been more of an anonymous crypto person, but something happened around 2017 where everyone started to move out to Twitter. And the Twitter was different because there you building more of an identity, like you were there with you. I had a Twitter account with my own name. So, and I learned how with people with a lot of followers, they can spread information more easily on Twitter. So in 2017, everyone was investing in altcoins, and many of those altcoins, I had then accumulated enough knowledge about blockchain technology to be able to it was easier for me to tell if some altcoin was lying about when they're saying they're more decentralized and they're faster. You have to know a little bit about how the technology works to understand, okay, but what are the trade-offs that they're not telling you about? And I found that in most of these cases, almost all of these cases, they were making massive trade-offs on their decentralization and censorship resistance, and they weren't saying that. They were saying we are 100% decentralized. So I started to write articles about all these altcoins that was raising tens of millions of dollars, and I was sort of exposing them on my blog. And this made me become known in the industry as the altcoin slayer, person who slays the altcoins. And it was through that way that the chief strategy officer of the Human Rights Foundation, a man named Alex Gladstein, who now everybody knows about him, but back then he was, like, no one knew about him at all, and he wanted to reach out to someone in the Bitcoin industry to help him explain about the usefulness and the purpose of Bitcoin for humanitarian causes, and for the usefulness of it for people who are living in authoritarian countries. So I must have been like one of the first or the second person within the Bitcoin industry that Alex reached out to. So we started to work.
Did he reach out to you on Twitter?
Yeah, he reached out on Twitter, and I remember I just got some message, this unknown person with like a verified badge, and he said that he was working for the Human Rights Foundation. I didn't exactly even know what was the Human Rights Foundation. But you know, it sounds like if the Human Rights Foundation sends you a message, maybe you should answer that and see what it's about. So he invited me to the Oslo Freedom Forum. I came there and I did some presentations explaining about if you want censorship-resistant decentralized money, then you know we have Bitcoin, and then I sort of explained what are the dangers with the other ones and why some of them you shouldn't take them as seriously. So we built like a good relationship from that, and then we did an article series, a 5-part article series that actually took me a year to write, which was a guide for people who are living in an authoritarian, or actually a guide for anyone that just wants to use Bitcoin in a way that doesn't leave any trace that can be traced back to you. So it covers the whole, journey from actually acquiring Bitcoin in the first place, like how do you actually, to me it actually took me months to be able to do this, because there used to be a site called Local Bitcoins where you can meet with someone, you can pay them with cash, and you buy Bitcoin with cash on the street. But in Sweden, all of those sellers have disappeared, and Local Bitcoins is now...
because it's banned in Europe?
I'm not sure if it's banned, it's just that you have to verify yourself with documents. Like if you want to be on that platform, you have to verify yourself. So it's not easy to use that platform anonymously anymore. So I had to find other ways of actually finding people on the street, and but in the end I wasn't successful finding people on the street, but I found another way to get Bitcoin anonymously. Actually, there were a couple of ways. You can buy gift cards, and then you can buy Bitcoin anonymously with the gift card. That still works, but then you lose like 10% of the value when you're making that transaction. The one thing that I found that worked best for me with the lowest amount of fee to pay was buying Bitcoin with the RuneScape Gold. So RuneScape is an old computer game where you can play the game and you get gold. So what you can do is like you can buy this gold from someone in the game. There are lots of sellers that will sell it to you anonymously, and then with the gold you can sell the gold for Bitcoin. So you
That's
just
quite interesting.
yeah. So this is so the method that we found that had lots of liquidity, lots of different sellers, and a very good framework for doing it without leaving any trace that can be traced back to you. I mean, it's not 100% like if the state, you know, survey, but you will probably get it. Like in most of the situation, this is one of the best methods for you. But like privacy, like
Do you still use this method?
No, like for me personally, I don't have an extreme desire to own this asset perfectly anonymously. Like I enjoy the challenge, but I don't have like any reason to go through all those hurdles in my life because, well, maybe I should, but I don't. But I've written a guide about it, so anyone else that feels it necessary can do it for them.
And do you still cooperate with Human Rights Foundation or not?
Actually, yes. So recently, so about this the altcoin slaying story. Something in the end of 2019, this is a conference everyone is paying with Lightning here and everyone loves Lightning. I'm one of those guys who are a bit like not 100% convinced yet that Lightning is the one.
You mentioned yesterday on the panel that Lightning is the same mixer as Tornado Cash.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's if the regulators wanted to find tools that people can use to to hide the origin of the funds that you're using. All you have to do is like you can connect to the Lightning Network. You can receive some coins over the Lightning Network, and then when you close the channel, now you have coins that have been mixed with the other users of the Lightning Network. So it sort of behaves like a mixer. So if the regulators wanted to, like if they're going after Tornado Cash and those types of tools, then Lightning is also, actually it's a privacy enhancing technique, which was my point. Anyway, so this layer, within layer 2 solutions they're usually made to be able to transact more quickly. There is one type of technology that currently exists on Ethereum, which is called Rollup technology. And back in 2019, I started becoming interested in this technology, and I thought, why don't we try to build something similar like that on Bitcoin instead? And this was sort of the end of my altcoin staying career, because up until then I've only been saying, altcoins are bad, and Bitcoin is the only good one. And now I was saying, but actually this layer 2 technology that comes from Ethereum, this is something that we should take lessons from and build on Bitcoin. And it didn't go over very well. Like a lot of people in the Bitcoin industry got very angry when I said this, because I was now giving credibility to the engineering work that was happening on the Ethereum domain. But for me, it became very natural, because I had actually for a number of years been paying close attention to the research and engineering work that was happening on Ethereum. And a lot of it, in my opinion, is very high quality, and there's lots of lessons that we can take from it. For example, zero-knowledge proofs. Within the Ethereum ecosystem, they have done some of the most tremendous work on zero-knowledge proofs, which I do fundamentally think that this is one of the best scalability paradigms for any blockchain technology. You have to use these technologies if you want to reach true scale in a decentralized fashion. I do think so.
And are there currently exist any zero-knowledge proofs on Bitcoin?
Well, so the definition of a zero-knowledge proof is kind of vague, but I think that in the sense that it's most commonly understood, I would say no. There are some things like bullet proofs and range proofs that are technically zero-knowledge proofs, but we don't have them in Bitcoin currently. Like in Mimblewimble, you could argue that they actually do have zero-knowledge proofs, but not in Bitcoin. So what I've been working with to go back to your question, what I've been working with the Human Rights Foundation now is that now we're starting to take it seriously, because we have seen now that these layer 2 technologies called rollups using zero-knowledge proofs, they do work on Ethereum. So we wanted to explore, like, is it even worth to go in this path with Bitcoin? Like, are there any can we understand exactly what are the theoretical benefits? Like, how many orders of magnitudes of more scale can we get, and what are the trade-offs, and what are the quirks, and what changes would be necessary in Bitcoin? And the Human Rights Foundation, they actually took an interest in this, and the Human Rights Foundation are now giving out grants to different type of research projects. So they are giving out grants to anyone that can build like a stable coin on the Lightning Network.
So they're giving grants to blockchain projects?
Yeah. So they've given a couple of grants, and one of the grants that they gave money to was someone to do research on whether this technology, rollup technology, makes sense on Bitcoin. And for this project, I was working with the Human Rights Foundation to help them find, basically to look through the applications and see which candidate should we give it to. And we gave it to a guy, his name is John Light, Litecoin, his name is Litecoin on, not Litecoin like the currency. So we gave the research project to John Light, and the results, like the early preliminary results of his research, is that we can get something like 50 times more transactions that will have similar security guarantees as base layer Bitcoin transactions. And the user friendliness of it, in my opinion, is potentially even better than Lightning. Because you don't have to think about the inbound liquidity, inbound capacity, which is a problem for some people that are using Lightning. So this is turning out to be an interesting research area. So this would mean like in one Bitcoin block you could make something like 250,000 transactions instead of just a couple of thousands. So it's 2 orders of magnitude greater. So for this I've been working with the Human Rights Foundation, but I also like stay in touch with Alex, even to this day, we're good friends, and whenever there's something that maybe I know more about, then I help them in the capacity that I can.